Parables about happiness. Beggar and Happiness. One evening a beggar was returning to his home. Cursing his fate, he complained bitterly, "Happiness, where is happiness? Damn it, happiness." Fate wanted happiness to respond and come to listen to his complaints and lamentations. And so, as soon as the beggar uttered these words, happiness grabbed his hand and said, "Come to me. Do not be afraid, I am your happiness." Happiness lifted him into the air and carried him far, far away. Then it lowered him at the entrance to the cave and said, "There, inside the cave, all the treasures of the world are hidden. Go down and get yourself whatever you want. But don't take too much. Let your burden be light so that you can carry it home. The road ahead is long and difficult, and you will go alone, without a companion. If you drop a burden on the ground, you will lose it forever. Be reasonable and don't be greedy." Happiness said and disappeared. The beggar went down into the cave, and his eyes ran away from a lot of treasures and precious stones. He started grabbing the most beautiful ones and filling his bag with them. An hour later he came out of the cave, carrying a heavy burden on his shoulders. After taking a few steps with his bag, the beggar suffocated from fatigue. Abundant sweat broke out on his face, covered his entire body. He felt that his strength had dried up and he could not carry his load any further. "What if I put the bag down on the ground and shake it? It can't be that I didn't bring him home in one piece." So he did. Triumphant and anticipating the joy of owning wealth, a beggar rolled a stuffed bag. But almost at home, he straightened his back, and the bag suddenly disappeared. The poor man's hands were squeezing the air. He looked around, began to scream and cry, cursing his unfortunate lot. And at the same moment, happiness appeared again. It looked at him angrily and said, "You are a criminal before your happiness and yourself. Nothing satisfies you, you lack any wealth. You were given a lot, and you had to take as much as you could carry. But you got greedy and took on an unbearable burden." A parable about love and disappointment. Early in the morning, when Hing Shi was walking with his student in the garden, a young man approached them. Somewhat embarrassed, he greeted Hing Shi and his student, and then asked, "Teacher, I love a girl very much, and our parents are not against us getting married. But I am overcome with fears and doubts. What are you worried about and what are you afraid of?" asked Hing Shi. "I'm afraid of being disappointed in her, in family life. Because I can't know in advance that I'm doing the right thing," the peasant replied. "Come home and marry this girl if you love her and your love is mutual," replied Hing Shi. After the young man, thanking the sage for his advice, left, the disciple asked, "Tell me, teacher, why did you advise the young man to get married if he is afraid of disappointment? Shouldn't he wait and postpone his marriage? Thinking like that, you forget that disappointment is too small a price to pay for possible happiness." Hing Shi replied, smiling. Fisherman and Banker. Once a banker stood on a pier in a small Mexican village and watched a fisherman sitting in a fragile boat. He caught a huge tuna. The banker congratulated the Mexican on his luck, and asked how long it took to catch such a fish. "A couple of hours, no more," the Mexican replied. "Why didn't you stay in the sea longer and catch a few more of these fish?" The banker was surprised. "One fish is enough for my family to live tomorrow," the Mexican replied. "But what do you do for the rest of the day?" The banker persisted. "I sleep until lunch. Then I go fishing for a couple of hours. Then I play with my children. After that my wife Maria and I have a siesta. Then I go for a walk in the village, drink wine in the evening and play guitar with my friends. You see, I'm enjoying life," the Mexican explained. "I'm a Harvard graduate," said the banker. "I'll help you. You're doing everything wrong. You have to fish all day, and then buy yourself a big boat." "And then what?" the Mexican asked. "Then you'll catch even more fish, and you'll be able to buy yourself a few boats, even ships, and one day you'll have a whole flotilla. And then, instead of selling fish to an intermediary, you will bring the fish directly to the factory. And increasing the profit, you will open your own factory. And then you will leave this godforsaken village and move to Mexico City, or even to Los Angeles. And maybe one day you will be able to open a huge office in New York on the 222nd floor and be the director there." "And how long will all this take?" the Mexican asked. 15 to 20 years. "And then what?" "And then," the banker laughed, "then the most pleasant thing will come. You can sell your company for a few million and become very rich. And then?" And the banker said, "Then you can stop working. You will move to a small village on the coast. You will sleep until lunch. Go fishing a little. Play with the children. Have a siesta with your wife. Walk around the village. Drink wine in the evenings and play guitar with your friends." The Parable of Happiness and Wealth. Hing Shi was not a rich man, despite the fact that he had a thriving school, which was attended by many young men who came to him from all over China. One day, one of the students asked him, "Teacher, your fame is thundering all over the country. You could be a rich man who does not know what caring about tomorrow is. Why don't you strive for wealth?" "I have everything I need for life," replied Hing Shi. "But you could have had a lot more," the student objected. "A person who gathers exorbitant benefits around himself is like a traveler who, along the way, collected everything valuable that came across to him, and then carried it, bending under the incredible weight of his burden. When he almost reached his goal, it turned out that a high wall blocked his way, which should have been overcome, but it was impossible to bypass or break, only to climb over, and even then, throwing everything that he carried with him. But the man had no other choice. So he left everything against the wall that he was dragging on his back with such difficulty." Hing Shi paused a little, and then added, "We come into this world empty-handed and leave it, leaving everything we have gained. So does it make sense to collect what is not necessary, just out of greed, knowing that then you will not only have to carry an exorbitant load, but also throw it at the end of your journey? Wouldn't it be better to walk your way light?"